Hello, everyone. We are back again for night 2 of Domestic Violence Week here on the Ella Johnson Show. I want to say welcome to everyone. If you are tuning in from YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. But if you're watching from Facebook, please just share the broadcast. Just go ahead right now, hit the share button because you do not want anyone on your page to miss out on this story tonight. I want to welcome my co-host for the week, Carla Bristow. Hello.
Hi.
Doesn't she look good there? I mean, she is just such a pleasant co-host. I mean, she keeps me in line. I love it. I love it.
I love being here. So thank you so much.
Yes. Well, guys, listen, I promised you an awesome show tonight and I will deliver. We will deliver because our next guest on the Domestic Violence Week is originally from Dublin in Ireland. She is the CEO and founder of No Longer Victims. She's the author of Survivors, Not Statistics. She's an advocate for men of domestic violence and parental alienation. She is an advocate for exposing pedophiles and sex offenders. She is currently in Canada right now, but she's now a widow. And she was abused for over 25 years. Get that. Over 25 years. This woman was a punching bag. And to the world, her family, they had it all. But she's here tonight on the broadcast to let everybody know what was really going on behind closed doors. So I want everyone in the Facebook and YouTube family to meet the woman who says that the best part of her life is seeing others become survivors. Welcome to the broadcast, Lurleen.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thanks, Carla. It's an honor to be here tonight.
Don't we just love her accent? You just have to. I could listen to you all night. I am so excited that you took time out because, of course, there's a time difference. But you took time out to be on the Ella Johnson Show for such an important topic tonight, domestic violence, because she's going to share her story with us. And listen, guys, it's an incredible story. So I want you to tell everybody, Lurleen, where you grew up and how things were where you grew up.
Originally, as you said, I'm from Dublin in Ireland. So growing up, I had a really good family. My parents, there was no abuse. I had a really nice parents. I suppose in a way, they protected me a bit too much because I didn't know anything about abuse. It wasn't a world that I had any idea about. I grew up and originally got involved working in the travel industry. That was my dream. And I met my future husband, my future abuser, when I was 19. He was the good-looking, I suppose, bad boy in a way of a town about 30 miles from where I lived. My parents hated him from the start, but because they hated him, I loved him. Right. Because they didn't want me involved, I had to be involved. My father did everything for him. My father got him on his feet. My father had a mechanic shop and a garage, and he got him trained up so he could drive fuel trucks, and he set him up in his feet for life. He really did a lot for him. I got pregnant. And I suppose now looking back, as much as I don't agree with abortion or anything, that was my first child and he's worse than his father ever was. So that is probably one of my biggest regrets in life. I subsequently went on to marry him. I gave birth to 4 sons. I had 4 miscarriages because of his rapes and his beatings, and I gave birth to my only daughter at 22 weeks. She was born stillborn because of his rape and his sex, and the world didn't know that. Everybody outside, we had a beautiful home, we had vacations all over the world, we had everything that material could buy. But behind closed doors, we lived with Satan.
Now let's go back to the beginning because we want to stop along the way just so we can kind of get a feel for everything. Now you met him at 19. Your parents didn't like him. You did. So you guys got married. How was the marriage at the beginning? Was it all nice, hot, newlyweds, happy at the beginning?
I suppose looking back now, there were so many red flags, but it was something that I didn't know what a red flag was. He was my first real boyfriend. I lost my virginity to him. So to me, I growing up was like the frumpy kid, and then I had this good-looking guy who wanted to be with me. Little did I know that the first date was actually a bet. He had bet money with his friend to see how long it would take to actually sleep with me. When we got married, he forgot my name on the altar.
Whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. No. Did you catch that, Carla? He forgot your name
on the altar.
Okay, you have to, when he went to say I thee wed or whatever the vowels are, you can see how long it's been for me. But he didn't remember your name. Oh my God.
He forgot my name.
And so how long was it from date one to the altar? How much time had passed?
4 years.
4 years?
4 years, and we had a son in that time as well. Yeah.
And
maybe he was nervous, Carla.
Maybe
he was nervous.
No, I think it was just he was having so many affairs that I didn't listen to people, and he was having so many. He had extramarital affairs. I mean, he had more affairs than hot dinners.
I saw that in your story that you gave my assistant. She said, "Did you hear that, Carla?" She said that her husband had more affairs than hot dinners.
What is it now? Narcissistic problems. That's a big one to have.
But wait a minute, Lurleen. He was cheating on you before you married him?
He was, but I didn't believe what people were telling me because I thought they were just trying to be bitchy, or I was very innocent. I was very naive. Now, if I could relive my life, would I change it? No, because it's made me who I am today.
That's right.
I wouldn't have the sons I have now to choose
That's right.
my life. But at the same time, there are things I would do differently. I would not have stayed. I would not have taken the youth. Hindsight's a great thing.
Oh, yeah. It's 2020.
Exactly, but it's what teaches us in life. But I didn't ever believe him. There was one time he had an affair, and I did get payback because I found out about it. So he didn't think I would find out, and I made some phone calls, and I found out he had actually flown from Ireland to Chicago, and he had met up with a friend there, a mutual friend of ours, whose wife I was very close to, but they didn't know that he was meeting up with his mistress from Ireland. So I had his credit card, and I bought the most expensive bottle of champagne on his credit card. I sent it to their hotel room, and I told him with a note, I hope you get change for your $10. I was obviously blocked from contacting the hotel after that, but they were robot, and he got a nice big bill for like $4,000 or $5,000.
Did you ever confront him about the affairs?
Oh yeah, nonstop. Yeah, all the time. But they were my fault, because I wasn't enough of a woman. It was my fault because I was always nagging. It was my fault for everything. And at the time, they break you down so much. I mean, women do it to men just like men do to women. It's not a one-way track when it comes to food. But with him, he broke my confidence so much. I lost who I was as a person. I lost who I was as a woman. To the outside world, I would have the hair done, the makeup, I would be smiling, whatever. I was happy-go-lucky. Because in Ireland, back then, and it's only in the last year that it's criminalized, but domestic violence was not a crime. And if you reported it, even if he left home, my children would have been taken. And I wasn't going to risk that. I was not going to lose them in the system. Because why should they be victims for something that they're innocent of? So I stuck it out for far too many years with him. I confronted him. The children confronted him. He was blatant at times. He would like bring the kids in front of my boys and say, "This is your new mom." And, you know, that did not go down well, particularly with one of my sons, who is my. You asked me who was my heroes, and I know we'll get to that later on.
Yeah,
but he's my living hero. He's my living hero.
Now let's talk about the kids. How many kids are there?
4 boys. My youngest is 19. He's 30. Then I have a 23-year-old. He's 24 next month. I haven't seen him or spoken to him in person since he was 14. He was in Ireland with me, and I allowed him to go visit his dad in Canada with his older brother. And when they arrived, they were introduced to their new mom, which nobody knew about. He threw the two of them on the streets of Calgary. One was 14 and one was 16. And after 2 weeks, the older one was put on a flight back to Ireland and he kept my other son. And because I had given him permission to fly to Canada and stay with his father, legally I had no grounds, even though he did not have custody. My son is now 24 and he was 14 the last time I actually spoke to him, and he's totally brainwashed now. He's a parental alienation. But
well, since we're talking about that one, is that the one that you were saying that, you know, the dad was abusive, but he was just as abusive as his father? Is that the one?
No. My 29-year-old, he's 30 he's actually 30 this month. His name's Sam. He is more dangerous, more abusive. He's absolutely one of the most narcissistic, pathological liars and a psychopath that I have ever in my life met. He tried to strangle me when he was 16.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he literally tried to strangle me, my husband at the time, and the boys were in Spain. And I was in Ireland with my youngest son. And he was only 16, 17 at the time. He was only young. And he was working with horses. So when you're working with horses, you're up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And he was out with a girl. And I said, look, you need to be in by 10 o'clock because you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He cursed me out of it. And I told him, you get out back here now. You come home. He came home at midnight. And when he came in, he came up the stairs and he grabbed me by my neck and threw me around the room. He tried to strangle me in the headlock. I did rip his face with my nails. I'll be honest, it was the only thing I could do. And he then said, watch this. And this was what showed me how evil he truly was, because my father was terminally ill with cancer at the time. And at this point, it was about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. He picked up the phone with a smile on his face. He pretended to cry, told my father that I'd beaten him and abused him. And my father was going through chemotherapy. And it devastated my dad, and it broke our relationship for a couple of months. But he hung up the phone. He said, now, see how you like that. And that was, to me, showed me how evil he was. Because if he can do that to his own mom, then what can he do to other people? And it has been shown since. He's recently been described by a judge in Ireland as being sadistic. And he is. He is. Am I proud of him? No. But I won't cover for him. I won't.
I can't imagine. I mean, I have a son, so I cannot imagine that feeling.
It's horrible.
Mother.
Yeah, it's horrible, Carla, because you think he was given everything. In actual fact, he was my firstborn, so he was given everything compared to the others. He was actually spoiled. There was nothing he wasn't given in life. Perhaps that's where I went wrong. He was given too much, and he thought that money was what defined you in life. But as far as I'm concerned, it's your actions that define you, not money. It's gone tomorrow and you're still a person. But he is so capable of doing anything. As you see now, I sent you through some of the photographs of different things that he's done over the years. But I do believe that one day he will kill somebody. I know if he can get to me, he will kill me. That he has told people I'm dead. He has told people he has a 4-year-old little girl, she was 5 this March in New Jersey. And last year he told people that she had got COVID, had surgery, and was gone blind. That was his own little baby. There was nothing wrong with her. She was not sick at all. He told a ex-girlfriend that my daughter Chelsea, who was stillborn, in actual fact had died in a car crash when she was 18, that he found her in the crash, and he even showed them on the side of the road where there was a cross and flowers for somebody else who had died in a tragic accident. My daughter was stillborn. He never even saw a photograph of her. When you have that type of mentality, I don't even think you have something wrong with you. I think you're just evil.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That actually sounds a lot like my ex-husband and my abuser, just outrageous lies. And that's where you sort of, that kind of confirms that they're just born. Some people are just born evil.
I believe that as well. I truly believe that. And I know one thing that he's done, and I'm sure you guys and everyone listening has heard about it, gaslighting where they make themselves out to be the victim. So everything that he's perpetrating on me or other people, he's playing the cards. To the point, and I'll get to it later on, but when his father died last March, I and my other son believe he murdered him. We haven't been able to prove it yet, but we're not giving up. Even though the man destroyed my life, nobody has the right to take him with his life. It's just not right. But he was in court within a week of his father dying in his father's clothes. He wanted his father cremated on his own birthday. And everyone knows that a rapist or a murderer generally wants a trophy. So what better trophy to have every year than to know that the ashes, your father's ashes, are cremated on your birthday? What better way to celebrate every year than to know you got rid of him when he was the one that was never accused? So
Now, I want to go back to something because you talked about your daughter, the one that was stillborn.
yeah,
Where was it, like 22 weeks or something like that?
yeah,
She was.
yeah.
Now, tell me about that. What happened? That we haven't even gotten into any of the abuse yet. But tell me about your baby. What happened with that?
I felt guilty about her death, to be honest with you, for a very long time, because when I found out I was pregnant with Chelsea, I already had a 1-year-old. And it was like, oh no, I'm pregnant again. And as much as I loved babies, having babies like doorstep, it's tough, it's hard work, right? So I got up one night and I went into the baby that was in the crib, and I leaned over the crib and I picked him. I went back into bed. He raped me, and it wasn't that I didn't want sex. He forcibly raped me. He punched me in my stomach. He punched me. I still have bruises, not bruises, but scars in both of my eyebrows from his fist to this day. And I turned to him and I said, the baby's after choking on the court. He rolled over and went to sleep when he was finished doing what he did. I went to the local doctor the next day, and she was very straight, and she said, I don't think the baby has a heartbeat. And I went, okay. So she told me to go to the hospital. He was very angry because our next door neighbors were getting married that day, and we were meant to go to the afters that night. But I was in hospital. Our daughter, our child, we didn't know it was a girl at that stage, was possibly dead. To me, that was more important than any party. We went and they did tests, and they told me that if I went home, they couldn't confirm that she was dead for certain. None of the tests were coming back 100% that she was actually not alive. So they told me that they wanted me to stay in hospital because they said if I started to pass her or to hemorrhage, that they wouldn't be able to stop it and I could die. He refused to mind our children at that time, and I had to go home. I went back into the hospital on the Monday. Thankfully, I survived the weekend. But I went in on the Monday and I delivered her on my own. On the Thursday night, he had told my parents that he was actually with me, but he was actually with his girlfriend. And I delivered her on my own in the room. And I had to then arrange her funeral from the hospital on my own, her burial. I carried her coffin. And it was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. She was tiny. I mean, she was the size of the palm of your hand. She was minute. But she had everything. She had knees, she had toes, she had the tiniest of fingernails. She had piercing blue eyes, she had the 4 brain lobes, but she had no fat. She was just really, really small. And I had to do everything and arrange her and go home and find children and get on with life. But it broke me that one time. That one was what's inside me that I need to get out. Unfortunately, it was many years later before I did get out. But yeah. But she's still with me. She's with me.
Of course. Yeah.
I got a tattoo on my wrist in her memory many, many years ago because she was buried in Dublin in a graveyard where there was loads of little angels. And the graveyard wanted to turn it into a tourist area, and they wanted to make it into a rose garden, to dig up all of the babies' graves, to dump everything that was to do with the babies, all of their headstones, all of their toys, and it was a really magical place. You could really feel like you could bury their angels running around. It was unreal. And I fought to stop that with many other people. He told me that he would kill me. Actually, he was going to have me gang raped and buried alive. And I lost her grave. So did many other people. They all did. Where our children were buried is now a rose garden where people pay €10, so about $12, $13 in, to walk on top of where our children were. And they were dug up by diggers and dumped in the trash. So that he can't take from me, ever.
Now you said our children. There's more than one.
Not just mine. I meant there was like
Okay.
thousands of people from Ireland who had buried children here over the years, with children's organs, everything. It was a huge big
Right.
plot. That was, they had their individual graves, but there was thousands of babies there, and every
Oh.
one of them was just dug up like trash with the diggers and dumped into like.
Oh my
Mhm.
Doesn't this just make you gasp? You're just like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
So when did the abuse start and why? What was the first time he hit you?
First time he hit me was when I was probably about 21, going on 22. And I stormed out of the house. He was drinking. His father was an alcoholic, and he was drinking a lot. But I didn't know, as I said, I was very naive back then. I didn't know the signs of what an alcoholic was. And he pushed me and smashed a bottle of wine, I think it was, on the ground. I stormed out, and that was the start of it. I remember some years later, his mom, we shared the same birthday actually, and she was only about 4 feet tall. She was tiny, but she was the most adorable lady, and I mean a lady, I could ever meet. I was very close to her, and she was very ill with cancer, and I was taking care of her in our home. And I was putting her to bed one night, and we took off her wig and we put her on this side table. And she just looked at me and she said, "Don't be me." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Don't waste your life like I did for 40 years." Her husband was abusing her,
Oh my God.
but I did not know that she knew that her son was abusing me. I thought I passed it, but she had seen the signs, so she knew what it was.
You knew.
And that was the start of it. The more successful he became in work, and the more independent and more money he had, he was very much a person for flashing the cash. And I would be the total opposite. He would go in if he went for a meal, and he would want everyone to see a big wad of notes, thinking he's something special. And yet these people are working for minimum wage. You don't do that. You respect other people. But he had girlfriends who were our babysitters, who he worked with, and he was bringing these women up and telling me they were going to babysit the kids while we went out. Little did I know that he was having an affair with them on the side. But they all worked where he worked in his business.
Wow. So he was, not only is he abusing you, he's doing it in front of the children.
Oh yeah.
I want you to tell us about this time where you found some pills in his bag. And I want you to talk to us about that, because that kind of has a lot to do with why the kids are the way they are. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. There's one thing that I'm very much against is like hardcore drugs, fentanyl, meth, heroin. I've no time for that at all. And I had heard rumors over the years that he was involved with drug dealing, but as I said, I never saw anything. So I kept saying, no, it's just people, because he's successful, because we're doing well, they just want to rock the boat. So we had a home in Spain, and we had one in Ireland, and we used to go there for 5-6 weeks every summer, and we'd go there a few times every year. This particular time, he drove down. I flew with one of the children, and he drove down with the other two. And when he got down there, it had taken them a few days. They were driving a truck at the time. I was emptying out the truck, and there was a Tasmanian devil sunglass case. So I picked it up, and when I picked it up, it was wrapping, it was heavy, and I looked at it, and there's hundreds of these white pills. So me being me, walked in, went upstairs, and I flushed them down the toilet. But as I was putting them down the toilet, he came in and he caught me. I thought I was just going to get a beating, but it was probably one of the most humiliating things he's ever done to me in my life, because he stripped me naked. I had my boys downstairs. There was the three of them. I think the oldest was probably about 12 at the time. And he marched. He got red lipstick, and he wrote across my stomach. I was only in second poor. And he wrote some other stuff. And he marched me down the stairs naked in front of my boys. I was hysterical because they're my children. You know, there's certain things you just don't do. And I was trying to cover my modesty. And my sons, one of them, Reese, who, as I said, he's my living hero. He was only about 8 or 9 at the time. He was trying to protect me and push him away from me and everything. That was one of the most humiliating times of my life, because he had me standing there naked in front of my sons, telling them what a hooer I was. I wasn't the one going around having affairs. I wasn't the dirt dealer. He was. But he made it out that I was the guilty one. He would tell the boys that he had a dream, and his dream for me in life, and excuse me if I offend anybody, but was that he wanted me to piss into a bag and be fed through truth for life. That's what he would tell our children. And he was very capable of it. Very, very capable of it. It wasn't that they were idle threats. They were real threats.
Now let's go back, because I want to make sure that everybody heard what you said. He was telling Lurleen, the husband, that he wanted her to piss in a bag and be fed through a tube for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carla, talk to me. That,
you know, it's that sense of power and control that they have, that they want to control not only how you are in life, but how your death will be, how you'll lead up to your death. And it's because of them, the grace of them, that you get to live every single day. And that is something that they try to drill into their victims every single day. And I'm just am so sorry that happened to you, because that is, I mean, as a mother, I really just, the one thing that you want to do as a mother is protect your children, and for them to see you that vulnerable, not only how damaging that is to you, but how damaging it is to your children.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He was very evil. Like, my youngest, as I said, he's 19. And when he was only like young, 6, 7, and a little bit older, my other son Reese, we had like a closet in the hall, and he had at the back of the closet, he had put a little stool, he had put a torch, he put a set of headphones, and he put a little like a MP3 type player, so that when it kicked off, he could put him in there, knew he was safe. And he was only a teenager himself, but he put him in there so that he didn't have to see it, which is great. He did not see as much as the others, but he knew what was going on.
What was happening.
Yeah, exactly.
They always know. Even at a year, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20, they know. They all know. As much as we think that we're protecting our children from abusive behavior, words, anything, they know exactly what's going on. And even in their little tiny brains, I mean, it definitely, there is trauma in that.
Oh, there is. I mean, I have done studies over the years, and the FBI have even done reports where it shows a child's brain for like a 5 and a 10-year-old who has never lived in a home with any abuse, and a child's brain who has lived in a home with abuse. They may not have been physically or sexually abused, but they were within the home. Their brain is damaged. The neurons in their brain change. So they're actually inflicting brain damage on their own children. Yeah. Which sickens me, but they don't realize it because they're right. They don't care.
They don't care. I mean, they don't care. And I've said this many times, that when a husband abuses the mother of the child, that is child abuse. That is absolutely a form of child abuse. And
yes, it is.
The effects of that will last forever.
They do. Memories last forever. You can't choose the good and forget the bad. You have the good and the bad in life, and you have to go with both of them.
Now, Lurleen, I want to ask you something, and I know this may be difficult. So if you can't talk about it, believe me, I
Ask
understand.
away. No, ask me
Okay.
anything you want.
Your husband raped one of your sons.
Yes, he sexually abused my son when he was 5 years old. I did not know. I was like plenty of other moms out there. I thought he was protected. I thought if I was getting it, he wasn't getting it. But I did not know. I didn't know why he had so much hate towards his father until much later, and it was only after his father had come to Canada in 2010, and he had left me with, it was three of the boys, or four boys at the time, but one of them had moved out, so I only had three of them in the home. And he had come over here. 10 days later, this particular son had been beaten up, and he was left in a coma. I was told the best case scenario was that my son would die. If he survived, he would have lock-in syndrome for life. There's no way in hell my son was dying. He was not going to die. And we had such a close bond that I was the only one that he responded to when he was in the coma. I took the intubation tube out of his throat because every time the doctors tried to do the gag, but for me, he didn't. He was the camera. When he was in the coma, I rang his father and I told him, like, as you would do, he never even came home. He never cared. He left his child, knowing that his son, they showed me in the hospital where my son's body would be laid out. And I went, there's no way he's not going there. That's not happening. He told me everything that happened. And he told me why he had hated his father for all those years. And it made sense. All of the different little things over the years that were sort of, on their own, you don't think about them. But when you put them together, it's just one giant jigsaw, and it's all the pieces fitted in together. And he was the one who, from he was 10 years old, would stop his father, pull him off when he was raping me. He would hear me, I would try and be quiet, but he would hear me whimper, and he would come running into the room, and he would hit and punch his father. He would try and pull him off me. When his father would try and hit me, he would be the one to hit him back. And one time, and I'm not proud of it, but I'm going to be honest, I wanted to kill myself, and I tied belts around my neck, and I was about to jump off the banisters in our home because I couldn't take it. I just had enough. And he called his father, and he came up the stairs, and instead of trying to stop me, he went to push me. And that's when I knew that he just wanted to be the victim. So I didn't do it. I wasn't going to let him have that power of saying that he's the victim, and I left him and my children. So that's what he did to my son, destroyed him. But he is my living hero because to this day, he protects me. He protects everybody. He has had his life had so much done to him. It is unbelievable. That would be a show in itself. And that's only for the last 8 months. But he's an amazing young man, and his name's Reese. And I honestly would not be here today if it was not for him. He's my rock. He's my best friend. I'm very close to him and Cody. They're my best friends. But Reese and me have a very unique bond, and I think it's because we went through so much together that we know how the other feels. But it's horrible to think of what he went through as a boy, because as a woman to be sexually abused, you know how demoralizing it is. But for him to have the guts to tell me, for him to have the guts to speak out about it, to help other people, that I admire, because that's one of the reasons why I speak out for men. Because I know what men go through. I know the pain and the suffering, and it's not right that women are just seen as the victims. Yes, the majority of times we are, but you know what? There's a lot of men out there that are victims of women. Not all women are innocent.
Yeah.
You
Now,
know, to hear you say that you wanted to kill yourself. There are
Yeah.
women watching this broadcast that are there. They won't admit it. People are ashamed of feeling that way. I don't know. A lot of people that have been through things, that's usually where we feel like our answer is.
Mhm.
You don't still feel that way, correct?
No, I did. I did many times. I will be honest. I did many times because it's easier to go asleep and not wake up and to know that that pain's gone. I mean, is it the right thing to do? No. But when you're in that dark hole and you have
Yeah.
no way out, and you know that the next day and the next day and the next day is going to be the same, it is why so many people end their life. But there is always somebody there, and that's why I decided to basically dedicate my life to helping people because I know what it's like to need that helping hand. It only takes one hand to reach out and help somebody because then they will, and I know myself from helping other women and men, but from helping people that they have passed on and they now have the strength and they're surviving. They can help other people. So if we all just help each other and be human and not worry about the material things, or what you're going to get or the publicity or a lot of what I do is behind the scenes. I don't do it for attention. But a lot of people do, and they do it for the wrong reason. You have to do it because you know what, tomorrow that could be you. Nobody asks to be a victim in life of anything. But you could be. And there's many people listening and watching this that say, oh no, that can't happen to me. No, it won't happen to me. It won't happen where I live. It won't happen to my family. I'm too clever. I'm too this. You know what? They're the ones that it happens to because nobody can escape it. If it's going to come your way, it is coming your way.
Wow. You know, the kids saw all of this. Did you guys get counseling?
No, never.
No counseling?
No, I never. The counseling I got was basically by helping people, by helping other people, by sharing my story. It helped me.
Yes.
Do I need counseling? I'm sure possibly I could, but it's very difficult, as you know, for a victim to trust people because
Yes.
they judge you. And unless you've been that victim, it's like the best person to help an alcoholic is a reformed alcoholic because he or she knows how they feel. They know how far to push, what to do, what not to do. But a lot of people that are counselors, and I'm not putting them down because there's a lot of really good ones, but there's a lot of them out there that have only learned it from a textbook. You can't learn what.
Okay, so it looks like she froze just a little there. But I'm assuming that what she's saying is that you can't learn in a textbook what you guys actually went through, right, Carla? I mean, because you
I mean, I think you definitely. I think there's both sides of that, but I think having that personal experience is definitely something that when you're able to talk to a victim in a very specific way because you've been there yourself, and so I do think that is important, having that experience, having that firsthand experience, and how to actually really talk to someone. And really, because you can read about what's going on in someone's brain all day, but when it's actually been in your own mind and in your own heart and in your own soul, you sort of have, you have that inside look like no one else possibly has. So
You
I
have,
definitely,
yeah, you have a different level of empathy that you can't get by just learning from. I mean, there's a lot of great people out there that will never can help. But
yeah,
to be honest, in order to really understand how that feels, you need to have been that victim one night because the little things that you might just push them that one little bit too far, and that person will maybe never go back and ask for help, or that person might end their life, or just feel that. And I important. I always have a motto: silence enables speech, speaking out. By speaking out, we remove the stigma. When we remove the stigma, it's like cancer or people who were lesbians or gays over the years. People years ago would say, don't talk about that. It's like taboo. Now, everybody talks about it. And the issues are accepted and people need help and support. They get it. We need the same with abuse. We need the same
right.
with abuse.
Right. So you were, for over 25 years, you were
Yeah,
abused by him,
yeah,
raped.
yeah, nearly
Your
30.
husband raped
Yeah,
you. Why
yeah,
did he, I don't understand this part, both of you, because both of you have been in this situation. Why is it that the men rape when you're married and you're willing to have sex with them? Why do they feel like they need to take it?
power
Power.
and control.
Yeah, absolutely power. That
It's
you're
like
my
many
wife,
pedophiles.
I can do whatever I want whenever I want. That is entitlement, that God complex that I'm always talking about that they have. It's power and control, and as their wife, in their eyes, you are their property. You belong,
Exactly.
Oh,
and they can do whatever, whenever. And I mean, I think I mentioned to you, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're, breastfeeding a baby, have just delivered a baby, if you have, I'm the same as Lurleen. I have two small ones back to back, and you know, that when you have toddlers, by the end of the day, you're touched out, and you just want to be left alone, and they don't care. None of
right.
that.
Yeah.
None of it matters. None of it matters. And I know for me it was, and they're still having affairs with whoever. They're still sleeping with whoever they want, but they demand it from their wife, and it's very sadistic.
You're a piece of property to them. They own you. You're not allowed to have affairs. You're not allowed to do everything that they do because in their mind, they own you. But it's the same as, it's not even about the sexual gratification. It's the same as with many pedophiles, that it's the power, it's the control, it's the fear. That's actually what excites them. It's not any gratification from the sexual act. It's the power and the fear they instill in you. I remember the last time he raped me was the 28th of May 2011, and I'll never forget it because I had collected him from the airport. Excuse me, he was coming back to Ireland. We hadn't seen him in over a year, and I allowed him back into the home because I figured, well, let him spend time with the kids, he's the kid's dad, whatever. And I was so scared of him that I would actually get a form of neuralgia where my entire face would freeze. I could not speak, and the tears would roll down my face with pain. I would literally, when somebody says they would put their head through a window with pain, that's how bad it was. And I collected him from the airport. I can't remember anything except waking up with him on top of me, raping me, saying, "Who's your daddy?" I could not move. I remember the tears coming down my face. And that was the last time he raped me. And that I swore would be the last time that he raped me. He never put his hand on me after that again. He did a number of years ago ask me if I'd take him back because he was sick. And I went, no. I said, I would look after you because I would help care for you because that's just the person I am. But I don't want to be involved with you at all. No. So it's not about the sexual gratification, Ella. It's about the power. That's what they thrive on. It's the power. Yeah.
I know I heard you say that, I don't want to go back to this and reopen this, but you were saying how you wanted to kill yourself. Did it ever cross your mind to kill him? Just saying.
Yeah. Oh, I used to sleep with a knife, a bottle of sprayed bleach.
Is that a bad question?
No. I used to sleep with them underneath the pillow. But the thing was, he was a really big man, and he was always either hyped up with steroids from working in the gym. He used to use anabolic steroids. I wouldn't have a hope in hell. I used to sleep literally, if you were trying to get away from somebody at the corner of the bed. I mean, I would literally be about to fall off the bed. And I would sleep with them in my hand. I think it was more for reassurance for me. There was one time, and I do regret not leaving him. There was one time in Spain, it was about 2006, and he was very, very bad with his abuse. We had horses, and the boys were doing show jumping, and we were in a stable. And he was freaking out at me. I can't even remember over what, but as I walked away, he threw a hammer at me, and it literally missed my head by, I would say, a centimeter. That day, he got very drunk, and that night he rang me even though we were in the home, he was in the sort of like a garage and a basement. And when we went down, myself and Reeves actually found him hanging from a gym equipment machine. He had a rope around his neck. We put something under his feet to actually stop him from killing himself. That for many years I did regret. I will be honest, but then I said I would be only as bad as him if I actually had not tried to save him. Yeah. You know, I just could not. It's not in me to do that. And at the end of the day, he died when he was 50 years old. So, you know.
Wow. I don't know. I think I would have killed him.
Yeah.
I would have killed him. I would have poisoned him. I'm not trying to put all my stuff out there. Because if somebody in my life comes up poison, they're going to say, well, you know, she did. Listen, if I had known you, we would have done some waiting to hell kind of stuff. And between me and you and Carla, we'd have come up with something.
Well, looking back now, like the one thing that I've learned from it is that now no man will ever put their hands on me again. Now, in saying that, I was assaulted last year. And it was actually by a police officer. I won't go into that now, but I was physically assaulted by that man for no reason, as I actually was just standing there. But I will say that it has taught me that, you know what, there is pure evil in this world. Mm-hmm. There is evil out there. We just have to be better than that, because if we think to their level, then they win. Yes, they might be dead, but then we end up incarcerated, and where's their kids go? We've lost our kids have lost their mom, and they've lost their dad. So what is the point about it? We need to speak out, we need to shout out, and we need to reach out so that everybody, men and women, know that if they're a victim, they're not alone.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you're exactly right. And you know, like you mentioned, he died at 50 years old. Karma always comes back to get them. And you know, I believe that. I mean, I know that momentarily, very fleeting, these men will have great lives, and they'll go and they'll have, you know, fun and money and women, and they will, you know, make themselves out to be this grandiose person. But in reality, they don't have their children. They don't have, you know, love in their heart. They don't have any of these things. And they don't live happy lives, because it's that sense of never having enough. So once you get to, you know, making 100K a year, then you want to make 150 and then 200. And then you want this car, and this house isn't big enough, and I want a bigger house and a bigger boat. And, you know, they never have enough. Which is also,
they can't be happy. They never have enough, because there is never enough to satisfy that need. They always have to be powerful. So if they have, as you said, a really nice car, well, then somebody down the road might have a nicer one. Well, you know what? If he has it, I want it, so I want something better. And it's like what children would do. But I mean, if I just saw a comment post up there, somebody said about parental alienation, child abuse. It is, because I always say that parents need to love their children more than they hate their ex, because at the end of the day, the only ones who suffer are the kids.
Right.
You know, if the children are being abused, yes, most definitely keep them apart from the mom or the dad. But just because you don't like the dad because he left you or has moved on, does not mean that the kids can't have him in their lives. That's not fair. They're putting child abuse, they're forcing emotional and mental issues on the children. And that's not fair. That's all part of domestic violence.
Yeah. I mean, my ex-husband, the father of my two daughters, he does not have access to my children. He never will, nor his crazy family, nor anyone. And
that's my girl right there.
I mean, because abusers manipulate their children.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They manipulate their children. And to me,
they brain train them.
Right. I mean, they brainwash them, they manipulate them, they use them. And that was my biggest wish when I was going through everything that I went through, was to, you know, I never wanted him to have access to my children. I never wanted them to be a moment where they were ever with him alone. It could be manipulated by him or his family. And I'm very thankful that I have that now, because I would never be okay with sending my 2 babies off, with him anywhere.
Oh no, I agree with you. I mean, the situations what I'm talking about is where the mom and the dad have broken up, but there was
Right,
never issues of
right.
abuse. There was
The
never
bitterness is where, yeah,
anything. It's just being a bitch,
yeah,
and that's not fair because the two of you made the kids, and the children are entitled to know that mom and dad love them, and it's not fair on them to be wondering why daddy doesn't love us or why he's not there when they're only children. Children need to be innocent. They need
Right.
to be kids and not drawn into and not used as pawns where they're in court. They're being dragged. If I go with mom, well then dad's going to hate me. If I go with dad, mom's going to hate me. And
Right.
that's not right. You're
No.
abusing your children by doing that. But if there's any type of danger, risk, or abuse, oh right, just cut it. I totally agree with that, 1 billion%. But not all men are wrong, but not all women are victims either. It goes both ways.
Lurleen, I'm going to ask you a very personal question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I had a mirror in front of you right now and I say, Lurleen, I have a mirror. It's, I have an imaginary mirror right here in front of you. Okay. I think you know where I'm going with this. What do you see? What do you see? This is very important. The truth.
Honestly, I hate to look at myself in the mirror. For so many years, I was never an overly confident person, but I did have confidence in myself. But all I see is just like big fat blurb. I see myself as fat. I see myself as ugly. I see myself as just something that would just revolt people. I hate to look in the mirror at myself. My sons are always telling me that I'm stupid and that I look good. I'm 52 years old. I don't look bad for my age, whatever. But personally, inside, no. Like even tonight, that's why I laughed when you said that. When you put the camera on, I was like, oh God, no. Like I just hate it. I would love to not be so have so little confidence in myself, but I'm not gonna lie. It's I don't.
Okay. Well, this is where the sisterhood and the women empowerment comes in. Carla, as my co-host this evening, can you please tell Lurleen what you see when you look at her?
Strength, power, a mother, grace, kindness, forgiveness. I mean, so many different things. A powerhouse. What you've done, what you've endured, it's unbelievable. I mean, Ella and I were talking yesterday when we were reading over your story, and we were both in tears. I mean, both of us. And it's a miracle that you're here, and that you have children and you love your children, and you've had to run for your life over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
That is, I mean, it's a miracle that you're here. So that's definitely a miracle for sure. And you should be extremely proud of yourself because, I mean, it's remarkable everything that you've done.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
How's your support system? Because you're in Canada now. How's your support system there?
Well, we don't really. I have a few friends here, but we don't really have friends. It's just myself and the boys, and we just service dog. We basically lost everything in the last year, so our life has been very, very difficult. But we've got each other, and I have some amazing family. I have my aunt, my godmother back in Ireland, my aunt Molly. She's 87, and she inspires me because I mean she's tiny. She has been so sick. She's been on death's door so many times, and she just never gives up. I mean, you have to book in advance, like 2 weeks in advance, if you actually want to go and meet her to see her, because her social life is so sick. She's 87 years old. She's more of a social life than I do. But I have some good friends, and we have some friends who I consider family, who have been helping us over the last couple of months. And to them, I'm indebted. But other than that, we're basically on our own. We are on our own. We have some very good friends, and a lot of them I've met through Facebook. But I consider them family. Now they're definitely family. It's not always
Now,
the blood that's family.
now, you may not want to talk about this, but what do you mean you lost everything?
Um, last last well, I suppose when my husband died last March, that was the start of a lot of shit hitting the fan. We did not find out about his death until about 2 days later, and then they wouldn't tell us where the body was. And when we found out where it was, I felt that COVID had just actually hit. So we felt that his family back in Ireland should have at least like a Skype blessing or something for him. Even though he was a horrible person, he was dead. He deserved to have a little bit of dignity. Everybody does in death. But unfortunately, as I said, my older son Sam and his younger brother, the two of them had different ideas. And they basically did everything they could. They went to court. They got lied to the judge. They got protection orders and control of his estate. They disposed of his body. Nobody actually knew him. He was just cremated. He didn't have a blessing. He didn't have anything. They emptied his entire estate, all of his property, his vehicles, his bank accounts. Oh, they spent it. So their siblings lost out, and I didn't want it, but they were entitled to it. But we moved, and when we moved we had been living close to where one of them was. When we moved to another area outside Calgary, and we thought it was a nice area. Unfortunately, we didn't know that our next door neighbor, literally our next door neighbor, was the town sentinel and meth dealer. And there was a specific group of we would have the drug dealers and the drug addicts up all of the time, which we weren't tolerating because they would be constantly coming in our drive or our property. No, if you're doing that, you do it away from us. I don't want anything to do with that. But there was a little baby that was in there as well that was about 2 years old. And I subsequently found out her dad, her biological dad, had died of an overdose the year before, and her mom had moved on to this dealer. And I had an issue with that because that little baby should not have been around now. And we reported it to a specific police department in the area, and they didn't want to know. And then there was a group of five, three in particular, but five altogether. But three of these officers who threatened us, who threatened my son Reese, threatened to kill him. We knew too much. We basically knew too much. So at the end of August last year, they deliberately stopped us. They, as he stood beside me, there was no reason for them to stop us at all. And I am pro law enforcement. I'm not anti law enforcement. I am pro, but I am anti corruption. That's something I am. He was standing there with his hands in the air with his license in his hand. And one of the officers we called Shrek because he looks like Shrek. I mean, goofy, right? He walked up in a very intimidating manner. And my son turned around and said, "Oh, here's Shrek." That's all he said. And he went to dive on him and said, "You're under arrest." And he missed my son. His other colleague, who we call Quasimodo, he tased my son. My son was standing beside me when he was tased. He fell smack to the ground. His head hit the ground like a melon. He was immediately knocked unconscious. Now, he had been in a coma when he was 15, right? And had 3 cardiac cylinders in that coma. When he was on the ground, they put him in cuffs. I was standing there. 4 of them jumped on him. They beat him to a pulp. When he was unconscious, pulled up his t-shirt. He had a vest t-shirt on, and at the bare skin, they put a taser on his back and his spine, and they tasered him. What they did to him, head-wise, was unbelievable. He is a very, very strong young man. He has been through a lot in life. What they did to him for the next 18 hours, they refused medical. They left him with the heating turned up in the cell. They had the lights on full. He was falling around. He was seizing. He had to put his head in the toilet to cool down. And you can imagine what the toilet is in a cell like. It is not exactly something that has ever been cleaned. He was very, very sick. He had a brain injury, and they wanted him to die. My son made his last will and testament to become it. And he told them that they can kill him, but that I will never stop. When he was being driven away to the detachment, he was crying, which is not my son at all. And he said goodbye to me and that he loved me. And that killed me because I knew there was something seriously wrong. He told me afterwards that, as far as he was concerned, he was never going to see me again. That was him saying goodbye. He knew that they were going to torture him. And they tortured him for 18 hours. The next morning, that night, I rang and I told them that I had medication that he required. It was prescribed medication. They told me to bring it down. I brought it down. And when I walked in, they told me I was under arrest. And I said, for what? And they said, apparently I obstructed the arrest. I was standing there. When I said to you I had been assaulted, after my son was on the ground, unconscious, in handcuffs and in beaten up, I was standing there. And this actually is recorded because they didn't know that I actually had my phone on a phone call to an attorney at the time, and it was being recorded. So although not all is on video, a lot of it is on recording, audio. I was standing there and Shrek came behind me, pulled me by the back of my hair, threw me against the truck and grabbed my wrist and told me if I didn't get out of the way that he was going to arrest me. I didn't do anything. You can hear me screaming on the tape. When they never gave my son the medication, they refused to give it to him. The next morning we were woken up early by banging on the door, and it was the police again, a different group of guys from the same detachment, extremely professional, very, very nice, very polite. I cannot say enough about them. They had a warrant for bombs in our house. See, we're Irish, and they were looking for bombs. We had nothing. There was nothing in our vehicle. There was nothing on my son. But there was evidence in our vehicle about what they were up to, and they took photocopies of it. They took pictures with their phone. And from then, they have intimidated us so much that they have destroyed our lives. And it's nonstop. There are numerous, the Director of Law Enforcement for the province ordered an investigation by the Serious Incident Response Team. That was done, and that's still ongoing. And they actually told my son after they did forensic on him and they saw all his injuries, which were extensive. They had never spoken to anyone who was as honest as he was. He says it as it is. Blunt, he'll curse, whatever, but he does not lie. What's interesting is that at the time that they assaulted him and me, within the next 7 days, there was an ongoing, unknown to them, there was an ongoing investigation by an outside law enforcement agency into them, into their involvement with the drug dealers, and into the drug dealers. Well, within the next 7 days, we were given notice of eviction. The drug dealers moved the first time in 8 years. Because they moved, the investigation into them, which is based on them being in that property, ceased. So the investigation into those officers ceased. You don't need to be an Einstein to work out how connected it all is. And they have non-stop. We are nowhere near them now, and the intimidation is relentless. We have had mail that was going to somebody else's address for us. It's been interfered with. We can't get mail. We've been living in my son's pickup truck since 30th of September. We have had just unbelievable. It's just, I don't even know where to start what they have put us through. And then on the 9th of this month, I got an email to say that they were under another internal affairs investigation. That night or the next day, our storage unit was broken into. The only one out of over 1,100 units, and it was a tiny 5x10. They stole all of my son's tactical gear for work, his military, everything that he'd done, he was after his fault. They stole everything. They stole his legal folder. They stole my immigration folder. But they stole a folder that I can't ever replace. It was the folder on Chelsea, the only photograph that I had of me and Chelsea. Her wristbands, the little cloth that was on her coffin, everything that was about my daughter, they stole. And I know they just threw it in the trash, but they stole it to make it look like that it was not just a targeted attack. And we wait every day to be killed. I wait for them to target my son to kill him every day. He currently he still has the head injury. He has PTSD. He has at the moment broken ribs because about 10 days ago we were in the car park where we park our truck where we sleep, and a guy was trying to break into another vehicle. And we heard the commotion and he let it roar out. So the other person in his vehicle knew he wasn't alone, telling the guy to go. The guy charged at my son, told him he was going to kill him with a knife. My son took him to the ground, disarmed him. The man was arrested with the knife. And my son injured his ribs in the process. He was in hospital the other day. They thought his spleen was ruptured, so much was swelling and injuries inside. It's hell. It's hell. I mean, we have had some people, mainly friends from Facebook, who have helped us. But nobody wants to know. Nobody wants to tell our stories. And, they just, because you speak out, they think that you're a liar. The one thing that we're not in life is a liar. We're not. We've nothing to lie about. And why would we want to live in a pickup truck? I mean, a few weeks ago, here we had the polar vortex. It was minus 40. One of the days, our truck had broken down. We had parked at Everton Important and we were getting coffee that night. And it was minus 29. And the truck just died. The battery just totally discharged itself. And then we asked people for help and nobody would help us. They actually said no. And we tried everything. We could not get the truck to go. And the next morning we were found by an officer, literally nearly frozen to death. I have never been so cold in my entire life. That was scary. But we have each other and we want to get out of here. I want to work somewhere where I can help people. I want us to make a difference. I want people to see us for what we can help them with, and to learn from us. Let us make a difference. But I'm tired of my son being targeted. I'm tired of him going through hell. They don't see anyone who has PTSD is blind disability. You don't see what goes on inside the head. That's
Right.
why so many people go through so much, because the world, they see somebody with tattoos, they see somebody with a bald head, or maybe a biker jacket, or somebody who's black, and I'm not saying not being racist because I'm not at all, but you know yourself, it's people see this and they think, oh, you're definitely guilty. When in actual fact, you're the one that's speaking out. You're trying to help people.
Yeah.
When this happened to us last August, I never do Facebook videos because, as I said, I feel confident in myself doing videos. And I did one, and I was hysterical. I was a blubbering fool on it. And I had so many people contact me, and I never mentioned the names of these officers at all because I wasn't going to compromise any investigation. The same names were being told back to me in messages, how evil they were, how they had destroyed their lives. And yet nobody cares. And nobody cares, and that's why they're allowed to get away with it, because it's systemic abuse. It's powerful abuse. It goes right to the top. And I've had enough, we've had people help us. They've helped put us up for a few nights in hotels. And, it's the simple things like, being able to have a shower instead of paying to go into a truck stop and say, have a shower. Or for me, it's not too bad for the boys, but if I need to go for a wee in the middle of the night, I'm not getting out at 4 o'clock in the morning and running up through a car park. So
Right.
they put blankets over their heads and I have to go in a plastic cup. And is that embarrassing? It's humiliating. But it's a reality. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Why should I? That's the reality. And we're lucky we have the truck. It's lots of issues with it, but we have it. There's many people that are on the street. But I'm tired of being forced to be a victim again. I don't want to be a victim. And when I wrote my book, I said we're survivors, not statistics. I'm not a statistic. My sons are not statistics. But they're being forced to be because those in power don't like us rocking the boat. But you know what? They better get used to it because I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm going to topple that boat and I'm going to sink every one of them with it. And I'm not a violent person, but you mess with my family, it's like anybody. You mess with your family, then karma is not going to get them. I'm coming for them.
Right.
And that guy who assaulted me last year, he's meant to be an officer to uphold the law. The look of enjoyment in his face when he grabbed my wrist, I know he's an abuser. I know he enjoyed that. But what he did to me brought me back 20 years. It set me back to the point where for many months I didn't do anything with the victims of abuse. And it wasn't that I didn't care. I did. But I couldn't. I couldn't stop reliving everything. He had brought everything back. But then I just thought, well, if one man has done this to me, well, then another man has done it to me. And yet, what could I do? If he was not in uniform, I could charge him. But because he was in uniform, it gave him the right to do what he did. No, it doesn't. Nobody has the right to put their hands on another person.
Right.
Nobody has. And I don't care what color you are, what religion you are, what race, what gender, anything you are. If you break the law, uniform or no uniform, you need to be held accountable. And I have so many friends that are law enforcement officers, and I am proud to call them my friends because they're good men and women. But then there's these thugs who destroy their lives, and they're doing it to their wives or their girlfriends or their husbands or boyfriends at home. They're not just abusing you, me, or anybody else. They're doing it at home as well, but they get away with it because of the fact that they're officers. And I know this because I've spoken to many over the years. And as they said to me, I know one officer who was a corrections captain. And he said, you know, in the corrections facility, he has the utmost respect. He goes home, his wife takes his wages, his wife controls everything. He said, who's going to believe me if I say I'm a victim of abuse? They won't. They'll throw me in here. But you know, and it was that really made me realize, you know what? Men need voices. Men need women to be voices just as much as they have men. So that they also know that, you know, like I know and you know, that not every man is evil, not every man is abusive. You know what? Not every woman is a bitch, and not every woman is going to play the victim card.
Right.
Well, ladies, we have someone that is waiting there to come on, Raymond Miller, because you know, with this domestic violence week that we have, let's go ahead and bring him on here. He's been patiently. Hello there, Raymond. How are you?
I'm good. It's a very compelling story, Lurleen.
Yes.
Nice to meet
Yes.
Nice to meet you. Nice
Well,
to
you
meet
know, we're all in this thing together.
Yes,
and you're part of that. You're a guy. That's obvious.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because you're fighting out there for women empowerment and you are a part of this domestic violence family. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with your Light the Night Purple event?
Light the Night Purple was is an annual event that started in 2015 by a family who lost a family member to domestic violence. And so I lost my daughter to domestic violence in 2018. And they asked me to speak at the event in 2018. So I did speak. And in the early 2019, the people that were over Light the Night Purple said that God told them to ask me to take it over. And I was like, well, you know, I got to check with God too. Pray about this. You know, I'm 60 years old. I got a full-time job. I mean, I'm the kind of person either go big or go home.
That's it.
You know,
I love it.
Prayed about it. And I said, all right, you know, we're going to do this. So I took over in 2019. So 2019, 2020, and 2021 is under my leadership. But this will be the 7th year. We meet usually the last Saturday in September. Because of COVID, we've had to move from the downtown courthouse in Hamilton to inside of a church up in Middletown. Calvary Baptist Church has graciously gave us their facility to use for this event. So during the event, we have speakers that will give their survival stories. I have several speakers this year that have gone through some horrific torture. I have one girl that was raped over 800 times.
Ooh.
She was tortured. Her hands are disfigured because of torture, her captivity. But she goes through this, and I've got like five or six speakers speaking this year. And I space them out. We start around 5, and we try to have it wrapped up by 9 o'clock, just so that no one falls asleep, and that way everybody gets up for Sunday school the next morning. So then I have special singing throughout the night. Singing is all geared towards helping women with some kind of song, or, everybody goes to church. Some people get things from the song. Some people get things from testimony. Some people get things from the message. So I want to make sure to include everything, because not everyone is going to get something from my keynote speaker, who is my brother. He's a pastor. He is the final, but I try to have a variety of survivor stories going, because there is something you can grab hold of each survivor story that pertains to you.
Yeah.
There is something, not everything pertains, but there is a part of everyone's survival story that you can relate to. And so I try to have a variety of speakers so that everyone can hear a little bit, what this may help this person, something else may help another person. So in the audience, we have it live on Facebook. Last year, we had it coordinated with Studio 22 Productions, where we had we coordinated it so that multiple places throughout the United States did the balloon release at the end of the night, at the same time we did. They watched our program. But part of this, what I do is I throughout the year, and I start planning after I get done with the previous year, is I try to have as much free stuff to give away for the people that attend. And one of the things that I've realized since I've taken this over is that my audience is not an audience of money. My audience is of people that are devastated. They've been verbally, emotionally, physically abused. They've been financially abused. They weren't allowed to have finances because of the control thing that you guys have been talking about. So there's a lot of things. And what I found out, after my daughter died, I designed a wristband for a fundraiser for my daughter. And I found out that I gave away a whole lot more than what I ever sold. So now I'm up to about 60 to 65 variety of wristbands that I send all over the world. And believe it or not, I do have some in Sweden. I've got people in Sweden that I talk to on a regular basis because of domestic violence, Australia, United Kingdom, the Guernsey Islands, all over the United States, Hawaii, Canada, Africa, Malaysia, all over the world. Anybody that asks, I send a wristband for free. It's totally free. I do sell them, but again, I find that the majority of my audience don't have the money. And, if I can do something that can or empower someone else, that's what I'm going to do. I can't bring my daughter back. My daughter is gone. My daughter was the most caring person you'd ever want to meet. She would want to save others. And one of the things, and me and her talk a lot, and she bestows things upon me that I normally don't see. But at one point, if she were to donate all of her organs, she could save 16 people. Well, she's already touched thousands of lives all over the world with her story. And so the night is for purpose. It's for empowerment. It's for encouragement. It's to show people of domestic violence that there is support. One of the things that I tell people, and one of the things that you probably can attest to if you've been through domestic violence, it's not an easy road. It's not an easy road. A lot of people that are in domestic abuse situations think that it's going to be, I'll get out and then that's it. Well, it's not. Your guest last night talked a lot about it. Is you've got to have a plan. You've got to have an escape plan. You've got to have a safe escape plan. A lot of people don't understand why people stay so long in a relationship, but that's probably the safest thing that person could do.
Right.
If they were to try to get out before they can get out, then they may be a statistic and not a warrior and a survivor. And that's one of the things I campaigned most. Last year, my biggest focus was purpose, because I feel that everyone has a purpose in life, and I feel that most people don't know what their purpose is.
Right.
I didn't know that my purpose was going to be helping domestic violence survivors, but I found that out when I was 60 years old, and this year we're going to try to focus on hope. That there is hope. It's not easy. A lot of times, domestic violence victims, and I'll just say victims right now until they become survivors and warriors, their families give up on them. They don't have family. When I was in church all my life, and so we would watch a kid come to church, and every week he went to the altar and gave his heart to the Lord, week after week after week. And it got to the point where, the first time he gave his heart, there was probably 15, 20 people around him. Then every time he did it after that, the crowd dwindled. Well, the same thing with domestic violence. At first, when you're trying to get out, you get out, but then a lot of traumatic bonding happens. A lot of insecurity happens. A lot of women tell me that even though they were in an abusive situation, they were better off there than they are trying to make it on their own, because they really didn't have a plan, didn't really have the resources and stuff. So one of the things that I did is, I said, we're going to go big. We're going to be recognized by the White House, which I did receive a letter from President Trump 2 years ago. I've invited President Biden to this year's event. I invite all the politicians, local congressmen, senators, and things like that to the event, because I think this should not be a 1 month awareness.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. But you know what? Every time you turn on the news, you don't see anything about domestic violence awareness in the month of October unless someone has lost their life. Right. There's more coverage. This needs to be more widespread.
I agree.
Awareness. I think that there needs to be more educational programs in our high schools about humanity and respect. I think that a lot of the laws need to be changed. They haven't been changed in so long that they're no longer really adequate for today's times. Me personally, if I'm being abused, a piece of paper is not going to make me feel warm and fuzzy. That that protective order that you get, a lot of women don't feel warm and fuzzy over that because they've been abused by having that before, by the man violating that. And then you get these police departments that don't do anything about it. The woman has no support. So she's like, well, why should I call? What's the purpose? What's the use? Everybody says, well, at least there's documentation. But, they get tired of that. My daughter got tired of that. My daughter, her boyfriend had tried to kill her 9 months before. And the police, if you Google her name, you can see the story. The police have been there so many times over domestic violence. It's like crying wolf. They become insensitive to it. And it's sad, because this might be the one time out of the 10 times that someone has called that they're really going to get out this time. Just like the guy that went to the altar. This might be the one time that he really, really, really gives his heart to the Lord. Because he don't have to keep running to the altar. He can just ask forgiveness wherever he's at if he does something wrong. So I think that women need to know that there's hope. We need to encourage them. We need to empower them. And not just women. I have a lot of men in my group that are dealing with domestic violence abuse as well. And it's as rampant, but it's just more rampant among the female sector than it is the male sector. And a lot of that goes unreported. A lot of women, I found out a lot of my coworkers have been in domestic violence situation that I work with, that now that we're not working together and they're going to other things, is I find out that they were going through domestic violence when we were working together. But it seems like these warriors and survivors, they can put on this happy face and make everything seem okay. And then no one really knows. And I always tell people, you never know what someone's going through.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The day my daughter died, I went to Walmart and the cashier looked at me and said, hey, how are you today? And I just looked and I was like, I thought to myself, you really don't have the time. You really don't want to know how I feel today.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm good. How are you? Because you know what? As bad as I was having it, there's someone having something.
Having it worse.
Me.
That's right.
So the more that we can do to lift up people, encourage people, touch people. You'll see in my group, if you want to try to find me, you can find me under Raymond Miller. You can find me under Like the Night Purple, and you can request Like the Night Purple. A lot of these domestic violence awareness groups, I'm finding that a lot of people leave those other groups because they get harassed, they get badgered, the abuser finds them, or they get on there and other women don't support them. They talk bad to them. Well, why do you do this? Why do you do that? Why do you keep going this? Why do you keep going back? We shouldn't be saying that. We're not in those person's shoes. And if you've ever been in those person's shoes, they may have to do what they have to do to get to the next phase of their life.
Right.
Like the Night Purple is about that. It's about celebrating survivors. It's about encouraging survivors. At the end of the night, we have an indoor balloon release so that we're not killing any animals out in the ocean. So we found that a lot of people need something tangible to let go.
Right. That's a good idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I have rings on them, so you put them on your finger. So you pull the string down, you let the balloon go, and then you can bring the balloon back with you and take it home if you want, so that you can let something go and then bring it back.
Yeah.
So
when you were talking about the male survivors, we actually have a male survivor that's going to be on the show tomorrow night. So we wanted to find that because I said, I talk about that a lot, but I said, we got to find someone. And Lurleen was telling me, oh, girl, I could find you some, but we want to do that because we want to bring two sides to this story.
Yeah.
It's not just about the women, but it's about abuse and power and the people that are affected by domestic violence. Now, where is the Like the Night Purple event?
It's going to be at Calvary Baptist Church. That's 1601 Jackson Lane in Middletown, Ohio, 45044. Okay. I've got 2 speakers coming in from Texas. I've got a speaker coming in from Missouri. I've got different speakers coming in that are graciously wanting to share their story to try to help other people in their battles. Because people that attend, not everyone there is out of an abusive situation. Some of them that attend are still in an abusive situation. Last year, we had a girl and a guy, and the guy kept telling the girl what to do. You're going to leave. You're going to go do this. You're going to go do that. And I looked at the Pastor Cotton, and I was like, she's being abused. And I don't know if she doesn't realize it because of their age, and they that peer pressure where they have to have, the cutest boy, have to have the boyfriend. But it's like he's telling her everything to do.
Right.
Had to keep watching them to make sure, and then also make sure that no one came in.
Nothing comes. I think we should make a plan. We should make plans to go, Carla. I think that I want to definitely stay in touch with you, Raymond, because I would love to be able to be there for that.
That'd be awesome.
Bring some of this Orlando sunshine over there. And but you were talking and you said something about Canada, and all of a sudden I just kind of, because Lurleen is in Canada.
Yes.
Now, I hope and I'm praying that you have some type of contacts there that can reach out to her, and whatever we can do to make that process move a little quicker, because she said some things and she was just talking because she has such a passion for people.
Yeah.
And I can easily tell that she just kind of glossed over the fact that she's living in her truck with her children.
Yeah.
She mentioned it, but she didn't harp on it. And that's because she's okay. I guess she, Lurleen, you survived, domestic violence, and you're just like, well, Lord, I know there's sometimes you just say, well, Lord, and it just kind of gets rough. But Raymond, what I'm asking is there any way that your resources over there in Canada can reach out to Lurleen and offer her family some support?
Yeah, I've got some resources here that may be able to help me to get some resources in Canada. Unfortunately, the position I'm in, the majority of people I deal with are the survivors.
The what? The who?
Survivors. And
the survivors. Okay. Yeah.
That I hear about Canada, it was the same thing I hear about United Kingdom and Australia and all these other countries, is there is no support. There is no help. There's nothing with the court systems. There's nothing with the police. I mean, the police are abusive as anything else, and they get away with it. Everyone that I deal with, and again, I get a lot of horror stories from Canada, United Kingdom, Australia. Those are the 3 top that I get hold of that are begging me to come to just hold an event in their town so that I can help them more than what I can from here. And I've told them that, maybe one year we'll start traveling and we'll have 2022 will be in Australia, 2023 will be in Canada, 2024, and do something like that. I'd like to get possibly to an all-day event, so where we can have like a little marathon before the event. We can have food, we can have games. I've got big aspirations for the event.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it. Love it.
I do have some strong resources in another country. She has a lot of ties with a lot top politicians. I'll just put it that way.
I don't care who we have to use or what we have to do, but we want to assist, do whatever we have to do to get her out of this situation. Yeah. Lurleen, I want you to look in the camera, and I want you to say what it is that you want and that you need. It's okay. We have not because we ask not.
You're right.
So I want you to say what you need. You never know who's watching this broadcast. It can be a blessing.
At this stage, I just want us to be safe. I want us to have somewhere that is not a truck to live in, because it's a pickup truck. So, I mean, it's big, but it's still a pickup truck. It makes in a car seat, and it's not great. But at this stage, we just want to leave. We just want to get out of here. So, because the intimidation has been going on really bad since last August. It's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. It's continuing to get worse. And I don't want it to take my son's life. And I know that's what it's going to end at, because he will die to protect me. He will die to protect anybody. And they know in order to get a reaction from him, if they do something to hurt me, then he will do something to protect me. And I'm not going to bury my son because of corrupt leaders.
That's right.
That's not going to happen.
That's right. No, it's not.
But I'm a bitch now, by God. They have no idea what's coming their way, because I just want us to be free. I want us to stop having to look over our shoulders. I want to stop living in fear. It's horrible to be constantly wondering what is going to happen today. Yeah. Are you going to live to see tomorrow? Especially after living the life we lived with abuse for so many years, that's gone. We should be free now. We should be able to live our life and to help others and just to be free. I don't want anything big. I'm not a flash person at all. I love the dollar store. I'm just like normal people. But it's just to be safe, to be free. And if anyone can help us to get out of here, that'd be great. I mean, I'm not one for asking anybody for anything. It's something that I find very, very hard to do in life. I would give the clothes off my back to everybody. But don't ask me to ask for something, because I just can't. I am absolutely useless at it. But if anybody can help us, especially, I think if we can get the story out there, in particular as to exactly what happened, the severity of what has happened, particularly with the abuse in the last couple of months. If that full story got out there in mainstream media, it would cause an uproar. There would be more than human rights violations have been breached. I mean, if what happened to him was known, if it happened in Iran or Iraq, you would have people charged with barbaric torture. And I'm not exaggerating in any shape or form with that. And I'm not accepting that it can go on in a country like Canada,
right,
meant to be, one of the better countries like the US in the Western world, and support people. Well, you need to support people and stop destroying them.
So Raymond, we need to reach out to those politicians.
Yeah.
Let's let them stop all the talk, and let's walk the talk. Because if they don't, then we'll put them on Front Street too. We have no problem with that on the Ella Johnson show. Trust. Yes.
Hey, what I need you to do, Lurleen, is after the show is get with me on Messenger.
Yeah.
Get you this person that I know has international ties to airplanes to get people out of situations and get them into a safe haven.
Yes.
Actually, she's a bodyguard at this point. She has gone through so much abuse that she's turned her life around, and she is actually a bodyguard.
That's actually what my son is. My son's an infectious protection officer. He's a bodyguard. Well, he was until they did this to him.
I'll get you her information, and she should be able to get you. And then if not, get with me. I'll get with my other contact in Texas who has a lot of connections in California and stuff that may be able to give us some more connections.
Thank you. I appreciate
Can
that.
you leave Canada, Lurleen? Can you leave? Are you in a position where you can just leave?
Yeah, I can leave. If I have the finances to leave, I can leave.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I can leave. Right now, I'm not financially in a position to, because of everything they've done. But yeah, I can leave. Yeah.
Would you come to the US?
I would, but the problem is that I'm over 50 and they have so many restrictions now on the immigration that it's near on impossible to get in. It's honestly impossible to get in if you're a young person. If you're over 50, like me, you're over the edge. I mean, that's, you're over the hill. They don't want to know you. It's absolutely impossible. I mean, I have done thousands of radio shows and work all over the US. I mean, I have so many friends and contacts there. And yeah, it's the same thing. You literally cannot get in there unless you are very wealthy or have a lot of very high profile strings that you can pull. And
well, good. Let's get started with you and Raymond getting together after the show so that we can do that. And we're going to stay in touch. We're not going, because listen, we're family now.
Yeah.
We are family. We are in this together because when one wins, we all win. When one loses, we're all losing. So until we get you where you need to be, out of that truck, safe, warm, then, we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop, guys, but we have gone well over our time tonight. I told my beautiful co-host before the show, and I said, girl, listen, it doesn't matter if we go a little bit over an hour. This, I'm paying for the time. So, but I had no idea. But it was necessary. It was all necessary because we needed this. Lurleen, if nothing else comes, I know I want people that are watching this podcast to know that, you're loved and you can step out on faith and, you see it happening before you every night this week with these stories. But I want you to know something, Lurleen, and I'm going to look directly at you. I don't know if you could tell if I'm looking directly at you. I might look a little cross-eyed right now. I'm just saying, it's late. I might be looking one way or the other, but I want to speak to your heart anyway. And I want you to know that you are very special because from the other night, Sunday, when you reached out to me and we had our conversation, that was private. I'm not going to put that here. But we had our conversation. I was all messed up.
I'm sorry.
I was messed up because I know how you feel. And we've all had stuff that we've been through. Maybe it's not the same as yours, but I couldn't rest because I knew that God was tugging at me. That wasn't the end of it. That wasn't just a conversation. And when what happened, and you kept saying, what you were saying to me, and I said, you don't understand. This is bigger than me. This is God intervening, bringing this show, bringing you here, because my assistant is the one who found you. My assistant is, yes, she found you, and she was just like, you have to meet her. You have to. And immediately I was like, yeah, we have to do this. But I want you to know you are my sister. I love you. And I don't want you to ever be afraid of the camera again.
Okay.
I want you to overcome that. Every time you and I've talked and I say something about the camera, it's like you freak out. And I was like, I'm so used to doing selfies like every day. I'm always in the camera. And she's just, but you're beautiful inside and out. And I don't want you to ever let him win again by putting fear in you because of what he's done. Because let me tell you something. He was a lie. He tried and he lost. You're still here.
That's exactly what
you could have given up.
I'm here.
And you could, and you know what's amazing is that you're, with everything you've gone through, still going through, you're concerned about other people. That's what just, girl, you just got me all the way messed up. Because I'm just like, this is beautiful. And I just pray in the name of Jesus right now, because I believe that where we are all gathered, he will hear. And I am going to speak blessings over your life. There will come a day where you will have your own television show series. I'm believing God that yes, all of your kids, whatever the devil meant for bad, God is turning it around for your good. You will survive. You will not, because there are too many people that need to know you. The devil did not win. He has no power. You are not a victim, but you are a victor. And I am proud of you. I love you. And I want you to have confidence and just let's do it. Now, I need my co-host to step in. I told her last night, you have to throw stuff at me sometimes to get me to stop talking. But I think she thought I was kidding. No, I'm serious. But
yeah.
Yes.
It's honestly, it's so just powerful, everything that you said tonight. And I'm so thankful that I was able to be on here with Ella and speak with you, because everything that you've said, I mean, it is gut wrenching, and people need to hear the severity of how it can really be. And this is not a Lifetime movie. It is not some horror flick. It is your life, and you have survived it. And you know, you have shown so many women how to do it, and people watch you, and you don't realize how much you're helping others, but you are. Every single time you tell your story, you help someone else, and you are just, I'm incredibly proud of you, and you should be proud of yourself. And
amen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna get out of here, Raymond. This is one of those shows where we should have definitely done it 2 nights, but we're not going anywhere.
Hey,
we have other stories this week, but we're not going anywhere because I want to get your story out there, Lurleen, about what's going on there, but we want to get you safe first.
Okay.
I don't want to start talking and bring light to that issue. Not that we're watering it down, but we have to be wise. We need to get you safe. I need you guys, and Raymond, I need you to let me know what I can do to help make this move along too for Lurleen. Whatever we could do on this end. And I'm sure that people watching this broadcast would love you, girl. You just never know. We might have a millionaire watching this broadcast that can just buy you a house.
That's right.
Okay. I just believe in that. Seriously. Because, when people see you, they don't see a woman that's, what's that saying? They say, I'm not what I've been through. I don't look like what I've been through. And you're sitting there looking all beautiful and everything. And, you've been through hell. Last night I asked the question, I said, there are people that are watching this broadcast and it could be you. You could be watching this. You could be in a domestic violence situation right now. And I just want you to know that we're here for you. All of these women and Raymond, we're all here for you. That's why we do these broadcasts. Because one of the reasons that I started this whole domestic violence awareness is because my cousin was killed as a result of domestic violence. And it blew our minds because we had no idea that she was even going through anything. And some of you watching this broadcast right now have family members that are suffering in silence also. And it's time for us to do something about it. We're going to be at your event, Raymond.
We're good.
With bells on. Don't get used to this wig because it might be a different one. Okay?
Hey, man.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, we're good.
Right? But we want to be there to support you because this is a great cause. And your daughter, I'm really sorry about your daughter, but you're doing a beautiful job too. And I know she would be so proud. What's her name?
Her name is Shelly. She is Michelle Ray, but everybody knew her as Shelly.
Shelly would be so proud of you to see her dad
too. So that's you. I teared up when you were talking, and just the love for your child is
it's just beautiful. It is everything. You guys are so beautiful, and if y'all would have kept talking, y'all would have had me crying and all these lashes would have come off. I can't sit here with no lashes on my own broadcast. But guys, listen, we're gonna get out of here. It's been a wonderful night. I want you guys to, if you're watching, to tune in tomorrow night, because like I said, we're bringing a male domestic violence survivor to you tomorrow, maybe one or two, as well as Rosalind, who's has a movie coming out about hers. So, and I just, you guys are wonderful. Thank you. You guys are all so just, you guys are, you come on the show, you're on time. And, and I love that. And I appreciate you for staying this long, because this is the first time I've ever had a show that went almost 2 hours, Yeah. But I didn't want to stop anybody, because, if we had to say it, it needed to come out. Yep. So I want to thank all of you. I want to thank you for watching from YouTube, watching from Facebook. Please share the broadcast and make comments. And I want you guys in the comments, please do me a favor and send lots of love to Lurleen and to Shelly and to Carla, who they're all affected by domestic violence in one way or the other. But I want to thank all of you, my guests. I want to thank you for watching. And if all minds are satisfied, we're going to get out of here tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow night right here on Facebook and YouTube Live for the Ella Johnson Show for another true story, Domestic Violence Week. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Good night.
Bye.